Okay, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We are doing another wonderful episode, and I'm super excited to introduce my upcoming guest. Okay, his name is Brian Banks, and I love that name just because of the Banks part. Okay, so I had the pleasure of meeting Brian in Edmonton when I was living there, and we started talking about flips and different strategies within real estate. And so I was lucky enough to get to go and see one of Brian's flips, and just over the last few months just gotten to know you really well. And so I'm just excited to have you come on board and talk just about real estate in general. Okay, so why don't I let you introduce yourself so our audience will know a bit more about you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Hong. I appreciate you having me on here, and definitely excited and looking forward to it. So, yeah, my name is Brian Banks. I'm born and raised in St. Albert, Alberta. Still live here today with my wife, Larissa, son, Asher, and dog, Bandit. So we love living here. We live close to the river, all the trails. That is really great. We love to go for walks. Our company is Freedom Best Properties. So we provide turnkey passive income producing properties to those that don't have the time, knowledge, or desire to do it on their own, but they want to leverage the power of real estate. And our mission is to create freedom and generate long-term wealth for families. So our primary market here, we invest in St. Albert and North Edmonton, and we focus on suited houses. So in short, that is, we help busy people invest in real estate.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about some of the properties that you guys have where you are, that's in your portfolio that allows you to do that passive income investment opportunities for other individuals.
So the term passive income is definitely a big debate out there. I can confidently say passive because the partners that I do build the portfolio with do very, very little to no work. And that's my role in the partnership, is to take care of all that work of finding the property, acquiring the property, doing all the renovations, adding a legal basement suite, and then continue on to manage the property and the tenants that go with it. So the money partner or the mortgage qualifying partner does very little work, and it is a passive role.
Okay. How long would they be in this role with you?
So at the bare minimum, at least 5 years, but I do like to structure all my partnerships 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
So the reason for that, mortgages are very interest heavy on the front end. For the first 5 years, you're paying a lot of that interest, and a lot of the profits that you do gain come from mortgage pay down is a big profit center. So once you get after that 5-year mark, you are starting to get into that mortgage principal pay down and gaining a lot that way in time. So this is definitely a long-term game, and the time is on your side. So you want to make the most of that and not be in and out too early like you would in a flip.
Yeah. And you raised a really good point. Like, this is a long-term strategy, like a long-term game. And so if you need money within 6 months or a year, or if you're going to be looking at your return every 6 months or whatever, then this might not be the strategy for you because it's going up and down, right? And so you want to give yourself that long term so that you have time to make an exit when it's the right time, as opposed to being forced to make an exit. And if the economy's bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the economy can kind of do whatever it wants with a long-term mindset, right?
Yeah.
And currently in Edmonton, it's down right now, but it can be a roller coaster ride, and with the long-term mindset, you can ride out those storms.
Yeah.
And historically speaking, over time, real estate has gone up in value. So when you're in it for 10 plus years, 15, even 20, you're gonna win.
Okay, so Brian, how much of a return can people expect from one of these long-term passive properties with you?
So yearly, depending on the partnership, if it's a classic 50-50 joint venture deal, you're getting around the 38%, 40% total return on investment.
Okay.
So the total overall return on investment is made up of monthly cash flow, mortgage pay down, and market appreciation. So when you split that into two, anywhere from 15, 19, 20% in that range per year. So pretty strong. The other thing I really like about them is it's a hard asset. It's a tangible asset. You can, get in your car, drive by, you can look at it, you can touch it and feel it. It's there, right? So you know where your money is, and you can control that and mitigate a lot of the risks that come with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because when so for me, any investment above 10% is a great return, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the last videos that I did was about doubling your money, or to double your principal using the rule of 72, right? And so finding investments that give you 10% year over year or more. And a lot of people reached out and said, Hung, where are you finding 10% return, right? Like, there's no way. And so now I'm getting pushback saying there's no such thing as 10 plus return. I'm like, okay, then you're not talking to the right people.
Or investing maybe in the right area or right city, right? So
exactly.
If you're in Vancouver and Toronto, it's probably pretty tough. I don't look in those markets, but it's probably pretty tough because the purchase price is so much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that actually raises a good point. So I'll make a note to, if we have time, to go into some of the numbers too about why a big city like Toronto or Vancouver isn't an ideal place to invest in because of the cash flow, right? Whereas a place like Edmonton or a small or big city would be a better option, right? Because a lot of people, when they invest, they automatically say, well, I don't want to invest in Alberta or in Edmonton. I want to keep my money in Toronto, right? Because a lot of my coaching clients are from Toronto, and that's the first thing they say is, I only want to invest in the GTA. I only want to do private lending in GTA, right? And so they're not even open to looking in Alberta, right? And so when I present them with opportunities in Calgary, they're like, no, that's in Alberta. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's understandable. You really don't need to look far. You can, a lot of people do like to just invest in their own backyard, right? And there's lots of opportunity in their own backyard. But the numbers do have to work. So my main reason for investing is for cash flow. It's the whole vision behind my business of creating freedom for myself, not only myself, but other people as well. So being my partners, right? So without the freedom really does come from the cash flow. And so, that in Edmonton, we can find, these suited houses up and down. They perform really well, and you can get roughly $500 a month in positive cash flow. So,
yeah, and that actually came up in our mastermind call too, right? That, to find $500 a month extra. And some of the students that were in that mastermind call was like, there's no such thing as $500 a month extra. Like, what are you talking about?
And my response to that was, you're looking in the wrong places. I mean, it's out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And when you talk about building, that foundation to be able to have the freedom to do what you want, my strategy has always been in real estate. And I'm so fortunate because I get to live that freedom lifestyle right now. Like, for me to be able to plan to travel and for an extended amount of time in China right now, that's massive. Like, a lot of people don't even get to take 2 weeks vacation, let alone take 6 months off, right? To go and travel.
Yeah. And if your life, the expenses of your life are covered by real estate, and now all of a sudden you don't have to work for money to cover your life expenses, and you have all your time, what's that look like, right? If you have all your time and you don't need to work because your portfolio is taking care of that, what could you do with that time? That becomes pretty powerful, and you can really think about, things that you would like to do to impact others, or, whatever it is you desire, you're freed up to do that, right?
Yes.
So you have the choice and options, and the financial freedom to the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
So it's really what it's about, is that freedom.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, okay, so one of the things that we had down to talk about was some of the mistakes that you've made in the past and what learnings you would like to share with me, of course, and anybody else who's watching. So what would you say would be some of the top mistakes that come to mind?
Big ones for sure. You have to buy right. So you, especially when you're fix and flipping a property, you do make all your money when you're buying, and you get paid when you sell. So it's very critical to buy right and buy at the right price where there's enough margins in there. So that's one of my big mistakes, is overpaying and paying too much for a property. It's very hard to kind of wiggle out of that and renovate yourself out of paying too much. So you're kind of hooped right off the get-go, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, also in the fix and flip, it is a speed game. So you need to get in and out. If you're over 6 months from the time you purchase to the time you sell, you are risking making no money. Every month that goes by, you're chewing into those profits, right? So taking too long, you need to really be organized with your trades and have a good plan in place, and really attack that renovation and get it done in and out. Without taking shortcuts, you do need to do, hold up to your ethics and values and do a good quality job. You want to put a good quality product out on the market. And if you don't, that will go around pretty quick, and you won't last too long. So
yeah, it's not just the word of mouth of other people in the community that's buying, but if you renovate and you cut corners, when somebody's a potential buyer's walking through the house, if they pick up something that doesn't look right to them, or like they get the feeling that you cut corners on something, then they'll question everything else that's done in that house. Right.
What else you're hiding, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
yeah,
that's really good. So you're saying 6 months would be sort of the time frame, and so anything longer than 6 months, you're sort of putting your profit online.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you need to be in and out in 6 months. Yeah, anything longer, you're definitely risking that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And in the Edmonton market, the market's really. There's lots of inventory here right now. There's lots of listings here right now. So there is still product moving, but that does make the difference of selling or not is the quality of the project. Some will sit around and not sell, and then your price reducing. But if you do put out a good product, it is still moving. So that does reduce the time, days on market time, right, and does sell quicker.
So that's 6 months includes the the time for you to acquire the property, right? So from day one, when you start paying a bill on that property, to your renovation time, plus the time it sits on the market, plus the time that it takes to transition over to the new seller, and then your title is off, right?
Correct.
So 6 months, right? Yeah. So it's not just the day that you get a buyer, right? It's all that extra time as well.
So if your renovation takes you 4 months, you got to still allow, if it takes a month for that property to sell, which is quick in this market, if it takes a month to sell, there's still another month by the time the new owners take possession, right?
Yes.
If all goes well.
Okay.
So you got to allow for that time as well. You're still the one covering the cost of that property.
That's right. Right. Yeah. Right. So now you're saying that if you can acquire the property at a lower price, right? So how do you prevent overpaying for a property?
Well, so there's formulas, right? And you have to be in and out of your renovation for about 75 cents on the dollar. It all starts with the ARV, which is the after repaired value, right? So you're kind of working at you're looking at the end product and the end value after it's renovated, and working backwards to work within those numbers. So a mentor that I followed for many years kind of came up with the formula of buying for 40 to 60 cents on the dollar, 40 to 60 cents of the after repaired value.
Wow.
pretty tough to get down as low as 40, but you know, 50 to 60 cents, you know, 58, 60 cents is where you kind of want to be. And then, yeah, go from there. And you should have enough room in there to make some money.
Yeah.
If you're following those guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will insert a link to a spreadsheet that people can download to calculate the ATV, or sorry, the ARV.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, just a note on that, is when I do coaching for clients to calculate that, and we talk about flips, we put in a percentage, right? So we'll start off at, let's say, 80% on the dollar. And then we would go down to 70 and 60 and so forth. And one interesting comment that every student tells me is, Hung, how do I make sure that I'm competitive? Because if I'm going down to 40%, somebody, a more seasoned contractor, seasoned flipper is going to come in and only do 80%. And I'm like, you know what? You want to make sure that you make money. You're not in the business to lose money. So if somebody's going to be able to do a better job at a cheaper price,
yeah,
take that property, and you in the meantime find other properties that you can learn from and get better at it, because you don't want to lose your money, right?
And that takes your emotion right out of it, right? And that would be another big mistake, is getting too emotional. So when you follow these guidelines and rules with 40 to 60 cents on the dollar, if they don't fit within that, it's a simple yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
So this is business. You need to make money in business. And you're not in the business to you know, don't lose money, right? So if you're going outside of those parameters, then you're definitely risking that, and it makes the decision a lot easier, taking the emotion out and just sticking to the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I would suggest to them is that if you feel like you're cutting down too much and you're not going to be able to get that deal, then partner up with somebody who's more seasoned at the renovations, right? So then that way you can be more competitive with your renovation costs and the timeline, right?
If you can trim them down, yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing I was going to add there, you can take this whole element out with the competitive, you know, the competition of, you know, if you're outside of those parameters and a seasoned contractor comes in and can do a project for less money, you can just eliminate that competition entirely if you're looking for your properties privately. So if you're off market, and if you're shopping on the MLS, you are going to have that competition.
Yeah.
There's going to be many people, many eyes looking at those properties, negotiating with the realtors, and right. So you're competing with all those other people, right? And which might creep into that emotion of, I got to get this property, I got to make an offer on it, you know, even though it might not fit the formula. If you look for properties off market, it eliminates all that entirely, because it's you and the homeowner. You're working directly with the seller, and at the end, no one really knows about it, really. Other investors aren't in there, other buyers aren't in there, and it's exclusive to you and working with that homeowner, right, to help them out and help you out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's actually a really good point, Brian. So I made a note of that, because I think we're going to run out of time to actually talk about that in more detail. But it'd be interesting to do another segment on how to find properties off market, because a lot of people don't know that, right? It's a skill in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So you talked about some of mistakes in flipping. Now, what about some of the other mistakes and learnings that you want to bring up?
A big one that I actually learned from a coach of mine, Russell Westcott, and it totally relates to me and rings true, is not listening to my wife.
Okay, so tell me what involvement both you and your wife have in real estate, okay? Because not every family is structured the same way here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are very real estate oriented family. We're both full-time in real estate. Larissa, my wife, she's a realtor.
Okay.
So she does help on the front end to find properties, but if I am selling anything, she definitely will list and sell that, and we will funnel the proceeds back into our home, right? Yeah. And help each other out that way. So she's a realtor and I'm a full-time real estate investor. Okay. So I'm really focusing on building our portfolio, and she is more transactional, I would say, with buying and selling, or selling real estate, right? So, but she does play a big role in what I do, and she's a great support system to bounce ideas off, and just to review deals and what I'm thinking and my thoughts and what I'm looking at. So she can really speak to the risk involved, and if we're willing to take that on, and really work together with it, right? So that every time I've kind of gone my own way and not listened to her, it has backfired. So that's one thing I'm really learning, is to, she's good at what she does, and to listen to her.
Okay. So now, I guess the question that I want to know is, so when you guys go on vacation, do you guys spend your time talking about real estate on vacation, or does one person have it on all the time and the other person's off, and so then there's like that imbalance?
So we're big. So that's great. The work-life balance thing. We're kind of like work-life integration.
Okay.
Right. So even when we're on vacation, we do try to put it away and put it down. But it's not a 9 to 5 gig, right? This is going morning to night, whatever you have to do to make it work, and you do that, right? So vacation's a nice time to disconnect, although there's always things on the go and things to tend to. So we are working a little bit on vacation for sure, and we love that, actually, the fact that we can be poolside or on the beach, whatever it is, and still working. That's pretty amazing to us, right? I never knew that you could work and still make money. I'm a carpenter by trade, so I'm so used to swinging the hammer, and that's how I would earn my money, right? So it's a different way of going about it, but vacation's a good time to just remove the distractions and noise, and zone in and concentrate on anything that you want to do as well. So
no, I absolutely agree with you about that. Like being somewhere else and not in a desk setting, and just still making money some way, right? So like when I was camping, on the first of the month, I get a couple of dings on my phone, and I looked at my phone, and it's like, oh no, like 5 rent checks came in. I'm like, yes, I made money today.
Happy first of it.
What? Sorry.
Happy first of it.
The first and the 15th are always the happy day.
and you're depositing those checks, right? I mean, or we e-transfer. All of our tenant clients e-transfer us. So you need to put that money. You need to deposit it in the appropriate bank account. So is that working? You're working. It's part of the job. Right. So you can be sitting around the fire as long as you have a Wi-Fi. Well, you can use data and deposit the money.
It's funny because the last, when we went to California to look at some properties down there, my partner and I and our son, we took one day and we went to the Legoland, and then the next day we were sort of house hunting and stuff like that. And at one point, my partner goes, Hung, you know what? I'm so tired of talking about real estate. Let's just not talk about real estate for the rest of the trip. And I'm like, okay, fine. I respect that. So then the next day, I made all the attempts not to talk about real estate. The next thing I know, he goes and signs us up for a timeshare presentation.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I thought you said you didn't want to talk about real estate. And so then of course we go to the timeshare, and then he's like all into it now, right? So now instead of looking at single family homes in California, now we're looking at timeshare options in California, right? I'm like, I thought you didn't want to talk about real estate. What's going on here?
Sometimes there's a bit of a underlying ulterior motive to sitting through those presentations, because what you get on the other end is, a boat trip or some kind of an adventure, right? That sacrifice maybe 90 minutes of your time, and whether you're interested or not in the timeshare, you get a benefit in the end, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So now tell me, is your strategy to stay in the flip strategy, or do you do other type of strategies?
So my primary strategy now is buy and hold.
Okay.
So yeah, everything that I do renovate, all my projects, I do intend to keep them from the get-go. So the last property, actually, the one that you were in, was a flip, but we ended up flipping to ourselves.
Okay.
So we did in the end refinance. We put a mortgage on it and we refinanced it, and we ended up getting most of our money out from the refinance. But we also brought on a partner to buy into that. So we ended up selling the property, but we sold it to ourselves, and we're holding it long term. So it's our own product. We know the product. You know, we developed it. We believe in the product, and we own our own product for the long term. So that's our vision with it, is that our product does produce, you know, income, which brings the freedom. So we're in acquisition mode and building and developing more of these products, and to keep them for the long term. So yeah, what I've really learned to love is putting together great deals and forming partnerships. So to provide them with this product and hold long term.
Okay. So explain to me a little bit about why you're moving away from the flipping strategy to the buy and hold strategy.
So you win in, you can make money flipping houses, no doubt. My mindset is long term, and you will win long term. So much work, so much energy, risk, everything, money goes into these products. They're, you know, always 120,000 or more that goes into that, and to sell them and just to get rid of them for a little bit of money doesn't really make sense to me, and doesn't seem to be worth it to sell these products. It's just more beneficial to hold long term. So I'm getting out of that. I still do a little bit of it, but that's the focus, is with the intention to hold everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. I was lucky because I started, like, my first few properties were all buy and holds, and I've never done actually I have done one flip, but it was just a buy and flip. There was no renovation involved in it, right?
Yeah.
And so so I absolutely agree with you. Like, in terms of building net worth, the buy and hold is a better strategy, right? But that's assuming that you can get cash flow, right? If you're not
because there's this whole, it's an asset rich, cash poor model, right? Down the road, in the future, over time, you're going to be okay. But today, you need to still earn an income, right? So I'm very fortunate. There's other strategies in real estate that I do that do earn me an income.
Okay, that you supplement it with, yeah.
Right. So it's more of the active income, and this buy and hold portfolio is the long-term passive income, right? For retirement and later on in life.
Yeah.
So we're building that today to, our future selves are going to thank us for that, right? So
ourselves, yeah, that's great.
So that's where Larissa and I, we really work good together and have a strong partnership. She's a realtor, very transactional, and like I said, I do other strategies that generate income, but mostly focus on those buy and holds. So like you mentioned there, you flipped one, but with no renovation, right? So that can be one of the strategies. Is find a great deal, maybe off market, and put it on the MLS and sell it that way. Can work.
And you're right. So the one that I did, where I bought it and then flipped it like a year later, it really was never intended to be a flip. It was really intended for me to hold on to it, do two builds on it, and then sell one and keep one, right? But just so the other thing, with that is being flexible with your strategy. Like, you might go in intending to do a rental flip, and then realizing that you can't sell it, so then you switch to another strategy somehow, right? Whether it's renting it and then you hold on to it for a couple of years and then sell it, right? So it's having that multiple strategy that's really important too.
That is a great point. To have, plan A, B, C, and even D, right? And going back to the property that you were at, the flip to ourselves, we initially had that listed to sell,
Yeah.
right? And that's another reason why I love the suited houses so much, is that you do have those multiple exit strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So it initially went on MLS to sell, and then we got it 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 wasn't selling, but we were more interested in holding it for the long term than selling it. Looking at what kind of money there is to make out of it, it's better off to hold it. So we went to the hold strategy, and they work really well as holds up and down. They perform well as rentals.
Yeah.
A single family home, if you're going to renovate and sell a single family home and it doesn't sell, it's not a type of property that fits our buy and hold model. We wouldn't want to hold on to a renovated single family home. So if you don't sell it, what do you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if possible, like holding on to a property to build long-term profit is way better than just offloading it. Because the other thing you could do once you have a property for long-term hold is that you can constantly pull out the equity, right? Like as long as you qualify for it. So your property that's worth 200,000 now, could be worth, 300 in 5 years. So you pull out that extra money, right? Whereas once you get rid of that property, you don't have that asset to leverage anymore.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah, and that's great. That's a great way to build a portfolio. We've done that. This is a long-term. It's a patient process, right? It's a buy real estate and wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of waiting to buy real estate, but that refinance, you can really leverage that and start building your portfolio. We've done that with our own primary residence. We added a basement suite down below, and we fully renovated our home, and we did refinance and pull out that money in the form of a Heloc, so a home equity line of credit, which is secured line of credit, and you can use for a down payment. So after we renovated our home and pulled out that money, we were able to go buy another property with it.
Yeah.
And that property actually is our highest performing property, cash flowing $700 a month.
That's fantastic. And it amazes me how people, there's still a lot of people who don't know what a Heloc is, right? Like I knew about a Heloc 20 years ago when I got my first place, right? And I've been leveraging that with the Smith maneuver, like constantly, right? And even till today, like I still have clients coming to me going, "Oh, what is the Smith maneuver? What's this Heloc?" And then I was like, "Oh my God, like there's so many tools out there that are available to help you."
It's kind of like that hidden money in your mattress, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting on all this equity, and you might not realize it or don't know about it. But it can be very powerful if you can tap into that.
Yeah.
And leverage it. It's like money you never had before, right?
Yeah. Or it's there, you just don't know it's there, right?
Yeah, it's there. And it's just a matter of accessing it and then investing it, instead of,
buying a barbecue.
Or any kind of consumer goods or consumer debt, or, you can go buy another property and that property can pay for your barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's a really interesting point because I was talking to, I think she's 13. And she made some money doing something, and her mom was really proud of her. And she said, she took 5% and spent it on something, and then she was able to save the other 95% for some trip coming up. And I said, well, okay, instead of just taking that money and paying for this future trip that's coming up, why not take that 95%, put it into an investment that gives you a dividend or some sort of return, and then take that dividend to fund this future trip of yours. And this kid, like I could tell a light bulb went up above her head going, what are you talking about? Right.
Yeah.
So then we spent like an hour talking about dividends and investments. Right. And she, like, it was like completely new to her.
And how much better does that trip feel when there's a property paying for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the freedom that we talk about, right? It allows you the freedom to take a trip, and it's all covered by that property.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing, privilege to have, right?
Yeah. So that's great. So now you mentioned about like your wife is a part of your team. Now, who else do you have on your team? Because I know that you, like when you were doing flips quite often, that you had a team, right? So tell me about your team now and who's in it and why those individuals are so important on your team.
Yeah, so real estate definitely is a team sport. You cannot tackle this on your own, and you need the help of others. And it's very important to surround yourself with others and like-minded people and professionals in the industry. So the big ones are lawyers. You know, having good lawyers. Sometimes in these creative strategies in real estate, a lawyer plays a huge role to understand the strategy and speak the language, and they're familiar with it. An accountant is a big one, and a bookkeeper to stay on top of all the financials. That is super important. Realtor is a big one. That's huge for both finding and selling property. Contractors, at every single property that I'm looking at buying, it does need work. It does, you know, I like to force that value into the property. So I'm a carpenter by trade. I had a former general contracting business, so that is a strong suit of mine that I bring to a deal. So I manage my own projects. So I oversee a lot of the construction and coordinate and schedule and, you know, takeoffs, order material, and have the people in place to take care of each task that needs to be done along the way, right? So that's huge. And yeah, the power team is so critical to have the right people in place and on your team, and sharing in the vision of what we're all trying to do here.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting because I did a lot of my first few properties all on my own, right? And when you're talking about like having that constant income, so I worked as a full-time engineer, and then I was just buying these buy and hold properties, right? And so that working as a full-time engineer helped me supplement my current income as my asset was growing, right? And because I didn't have, like, I wasn't buying flip properties, but I was still renovating, right? Like there was always some sort of renovation happening. There was always some sort of thing that needed to be done, right? And so having, like, I was really, really lucky that within our circle of like my family friends, we had a general contractor guy, and he basically became my general contractor for all of my properties. And so if one place needed something, I would call him, he would just go do the work. And then, you know, and I didn't have to negotiate with him on pricing, right? Like I knew he was honest. I knew he would do good work. And so he just went and did every single one of my properties, right? And so he was a critical, like for me, having a general contractor on board was critical so that I could work full time as an engineer and not worry about, you know, going to fix a plumbing issue.
Yeah, 100%. You need to, right? Especially in your position, if you're still working full time, you need that general contractor to rely on, right? There's no way you'd be able to do it, you know, at evenings and weekends and trying to do this yourself. Like you're just going to burn out. So you got to work smart that way. And it's better to leverage the skills of 100 people than doing 100% of the work yourself. And that's where it gets into stretching these projects out over time. You think you're saving money by doing work yourself, but it's taking you a lot longer. And you're kind of bleeding out that way, right?
Yes, you raise a really good point, right? Because just because you could do the work doesn't mean you should be doing it.
Yes, and that is something I struggle with, and that has been a challenge for me, being a carpenter by trade and so natural and so used to throwing on the pouch and getting to work, right? Where I've really been conscious of that and stepping back to allow others, you know, to do that. And it ends up, especially when you're doing it full time, it is not the highest and best use of your time. You know, when you're getting into full time, you need to be focused on finding deals and raising capital. And that's really what's driving the business, and everything else can be you know, passed off to a team member and delegated off. So
yeah. So now I was really fortunate that that this contractor that I had for almost 20 years, he actually let me shadow him whenever I had time. So I would go with him to certain sites, and he would actually teach me how to change a faucet or how to change, you know, the ceiling fan, right? So there was like smaller projects that I could do and learn, and that was really helpful because then when I was dealing with contractors later on, especially now because he's retired, like, so when I deal with other contractors in other cities that he can't go to, at least I know what they're talking about, and I have a concept of how much time something would take, right?
And cost.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that definitely it builds your resource bank in your mind, and helps you to talk and negotiate with other contractors, and they won't be able to pull the wool over your eyes per se, right? You know what you're talking about, and if you're educated there, then you can, it's a lot more effective for sure.
Yeah. So now you mentioned that you have a young son. Is your hopes that your son will get into real estate like your wife and you?
He probably will, by default. I think the first week that when he was born, within the first 2 weeks, he was in a lawyer's office signing closing documents. He was at a mortgage broker's office, and he was kind of all over the city with Larissa, looking at different properties. So he's definitely born right into it. He's a year now. He's actually turning 1 next week.
Okay.
So it's I don't think he'll definitely be there, whether he chooses it full time as a profession. But this is all part of building the legacy, right?
Yeah.
Having that generational wealth to pass down. And we did buy a property. He was born August 12th, and in September we took possession of a property, and that's kind of the property that we said would be for him.
Okay.
Instead of, we have not set up our ESPs yet for him for his education, so that property is contributing to his RESP per se, and building a foundation for him. So whether he chooses to live in that property, it's a suited house. It would be great to make that first step out of the nest here. But it also is a good foundation to start his life with.
So I've got a young son, and we started looking, like, going to I started taking him to look at properties, and now he'll actually walk into a property and critique it, which is quite funny to like hear. Like, at that time he was 4.5, right? And to hear him critique a property is quite funny, right? Because he'll be like, "Mom, this room is too small," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, it's a condo. Of course it's going to be too small." So, but I think by default he will be going into real estate as well. Weird. Okay. Well,
we're good.
Yeah, seems like we're going full force here.
Yeah. So I was just saying to Hong there. Ultimately, it's Asher's decision. There will always be an element of real estate in his life for sure. We're in it for the long term. But ultimately, it's whatever he wants and what he chooses. And we're there to support him through that. That's we just want to be those role models and give him the confidence to pursue whatever he wants and whatever he chooses, right? So
right. Right. So now, what suggestions would you have for somebody who's in real estate full time and has young kids, in terms of how to balance still being an investor and having young kids?
So it was really hard for us in the beginning. It's starting to get better because one is always going to suffer. You can be an amazing parent or an amazing father, but the business is going to suffer. And then likewise, you could be focusing on the business, and the amazing parent side is going to suffer, right? So it is really tough to balance that. We're now getting into getting care and help with that for Asher, because it's just, especially at this age, he's crawling, he's ripping around the house, into everything. It's a full-time job to watch him, and you can't take your eye off. So it's very hard, almost impossible to get anything done when you're watching him. So we did hire a part-time nanny that we have come in to our house every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today's Tuesday, this afternoon from 1 till 5 or 1 till 6 sometimes. She'll come in. That started on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're so fortunate to have we have an incredibly strong support system here with family. Both sets of parents, my parents, Larissa's parents, are in St. Albert as well and close by. So they help a ton, right? That is, I couldn't imagine doing it without them. And they do step in and take care of Asher when required or when needed. Now it's sometimes they'll take for a full day, right? So that really helps us out and allows us to focus on our business and what we have to get done. And then back to the work-life integration. We take Asher with us at times as well. It's just what we have to do. And if Larissa has to go show a house, or if we have a appointment or meeting with one of our team members, a lawyer, or he could be there with us, and it's just how we make it work, and it does. So
yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. Like, to raise a child when you're in real estate, like when you're self-employed, it's really hard. Like, you have to be able to juggle that, right? And you have to be able to leverage your friends and family to be able to help sometimes, right? So like, there's times where I've taken my son to the lawyer's office as well to sign documents.
Yeah.
He has to sit through that appointment, right? And then there's times where I'm like, you know what, this would be better if I just left him with so-and-so, right? I just let them watch him for the hour so that I can take off and go do what I need to do. So it's a constant juggle. And it's so important to have family and friends that you can count on, right? Like, there's times in Edmonton when I needed to be in Calgary. And so I would drop my son off at a friend's place at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning so that they can go to school. And it's like, there's no way, like, it's just hard to do, right? But you make it happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's being aware of that it it's there for your support. They're there for your support, and reaching out for that help.
Yeah. And not being afraid to ask for it. Like, it does not mean that you're a bad parent because you need babysitting help, right?
Yeah.
So.
And they love it too, right? It's their time, it's their opportunity to spend time with them and bond and form the relationship, and right, it's their grandson. So
and it's important so that when you're actually with them, that you're with them, right, as often as possible, so that you're not sort of half with them and then half thinking about all these other deals and tasks that you have going on, right? So it's actually spending the quality time, right? And that took me years to learn to disconnect from my cell phone, from my laptop, and just be present with whoever I'm with, right? And that's still an ongoing thing. Like, there was one of my friends has, I think she's 3, right? And they, the mom said to her, "Oh, Hong's going to come over and hang out with us." So she goes and she finds a toy laptop and sets it up, and she's like, "I'm getting ready for Hong to visit." And I'm like, no, that's not the image I want to put out there, right?
Right? No TV, no computer, no phone.
But it made me realize that, oh my God, when I do go over to their house, that I am bringing my laptop and I am setting up my laptop and doing, even if it's 10 minutes of work, right? Yeah. That's the image that I'm giving out there to this 3-year-old, is that I'm on my laptop all the time.
And they know, they learn, they see, they're watching your every move, right? So you have to set that example.
Yeah.
It's super. It's definitely a challenge, especially in this day and age. We just need to be conscious of it and really practice that, right?
Yeah.
So I do make a point. I spend the first 2 hours of every day with Asher.
Okay.
That is my biggest priority. To give him that undivided attention and quality time in the morning. It's just us, and teach him, he can learn, read books, play, even if it's learning how to move, crawling up and down the stairs, it's all important stuff, and being present with him.
Nice. Yeah. That's fantastic. And that's the great thing, right? So that because you're self-employed, you get to choose those 2 hours in the morning, right? Like, you're not waking up, and getting ready to go to an office job, right?
I've designed it that way.
Yeah.
Right. This is kind of trying to design your life, right, and living your life by design. and that's number one, right? So definitely very grateful to be able to do that and live that life. Even if it's just I never wanted to be the dad or the parents that never see them, right? You know, you're gone to work in the morning, and then when you get home at night, they're already in bed, and you barely see them, right? Yeah. So yeah, we Larissa and I both are, you know, we play a pretty active role in his life, and you know, we're very fortunate for that, and it doesn't go unrecognized. We remind ourselves of that, you know, almost daily. So yeah, we do.
Good. Oh my God. So so I have like 6 other questions to ask you. So of course now we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So we won't do them.
Another interview, I guess.
So what I will do is I will put your contact information below so that everybody will be able to contact you. And is there a preferred method that you would like people to reach out to you on?
Probably the best is Facebook. Actually, Freedom Best Properties. You can find me on Facebook at my business page, Freedom Best Properties. All my contact info is there. Email, phone numbers there. You can private message me. You know, reach out anytime. I'd, you know, happy to help and you know, build some more connections, and yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate the time. Like, you know, when I first met you, I was like, oh my God, he's so down to earth. He's so easygoing, right? And I think that that's really what allowed us to build this like instant rapport, right? So thank you.
Sure. Yeah. When you know, right?
Yeah. And you know what, like all of the mistakes and learnings that you've had in the past, you know, that you shared with us, like, it's just amazing to be able to share that so that somebody else, rather than them making those same mistakes, can just sort of use it as sort of like a jumping board to where they want to go, right? And
for sure.
Accelerate. And, you know, like what you're saying about just having this freedom to do what we want and just being appreciative of it and living the life by design that we want, right, is so critical to just, you know, being happy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I hope the audience or the viewers got value. Definitely is wise to learn from other people's mistakes, other than you know, making them on your own. When you do, learn from them for sure. But it is more important to implement and take action. You can learn everything you want, and it's only potential power, right? If you don't put it to work and implement, that's where you really learn. Is when you.
Yeah. It's just taking those first 2 steps, right? And then even if you go 3 steps back, just take a couple more.
Yeah, having that long-term mindset, right, and being committed to it, and it will happen, you know. So you get up, you brush the dust off, and you keep going, and mindset plays a huge role. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I love that one. So you know, that's where it starts, is building and growing that mindset. Get educated and meet people.
Absolutely.
We'll play a massive role in this.
Yeah. So, all right.
Thank you so much, Hong. I really appreciate the time, and it was great to chat with you. And it sounds like we have more to talk about.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. I'm going to send you a high five right now. A couple high fives. There you go.
Awesome.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Take care.